afternoon, sports fans, and welcome back to the fourth episode of the Trajan Temple Sportcast. I am your host, professional wrestler and Kansas City Chiefs fanatic, Christian Temple, joined alongside, as always, my good friend, the terrible towel-twirling Trajan. How are we doing this fine afternoon, sir?
Doing great. That was a terrible towel waving on my part, but we'll let it slide, I guess, this time.
Do you want to talk about it, or should we not talk about it?
I don't want to talk.
Because I've got that tab. I can just pull it up right now at any second now. So, no, we'll save that for when things get interesting in the regular season. Welcome back to the show, by the way. We've got a really fun show for you today here. We will be talking about, obviously, the Week 2 matchup of the Chiefs versus the Cardinals, and I guess technically Week 3 matchup for Pittsburgh, and week 2 for Detroit Lions as well. The NFL Top 100 Players list has been announced. We are down to the top 10, and today we will be making our predictions of where the top 10 will be ranked. They've already announced who the final 10 will be, but we will take a stab at ranking them individually, starting from number 10 all the way to number 1. And at the end of the show, we will also take a look at the fantasy football rankings, who the experts believe will be the top 3 or 4, and we'll give our 2 cents and see if we agree or disagree with them too. So we will start off with the first preseason game we're talking about. Let's hear it for the Chiefs Kingdom. How about those Chiefs? They go 2-0, taking down the Arizona Cardinals on the road with a final score of 17-10. It was announced earlier in the week that Patrick Mahomes would start the whole first quarter, and he actually, all things considered, didn't look that bad. He was 10 completions out of 18 attempts with 78 yards. Really did get a lot more focus on the running game this week, which I was really excited to see. The one drive he did have that got into the red zone did unfortunately end in an interception, but, it's preseason. Let's get it out of your system now. Once again, another impressive showing by Shane Buechele, who was 9 of 11. He also had an interception as well, but he did have a passing touchdown as well. 81% completion rating for 115 yards. He was definitely the top passer this week, outside of Chad Henne, who was only in for a couple drives, but also had a passing touchdown too. And some good news for Shane Buechele. He did, in fact, outlast Anthony Gordon. He was, even though Anthony Gordon was 7 for 7, only for 42 yards, but he was one of the 5 players announced in the final, or not the final, but the 80-man roster that was announced that was cut. Moving on down to the rushing category here, Derek Gore, who didn't really show a whole lot the previous week, he definitely stepped up big time here. And I got to point this out too. It's a very funny note here. So the Chiefs have the ball towards the end, and they're driving down the field, just to run the clock out too. So it's third and I want to say 5 or 6 or something. Handoff to Derek Gore, and he sprints towards the first down marker, which is like 3 or 4 yards away from the end zone. And these ESPN announcers couldn't imagine why he would just try to get the first down instead of getting the touchdown. It was like they made it sound like that was like the decision that lost them the game or something like that. I don't understand what their logic was too. I understand Derek Gore's logic. That was a great business decision. Ice the game, get the first down.
Exactly. I mean, plus, earn that spot on the roster. Make that money.
Exactly. So speaking of spot on the roster, too, another returning running back, Darwin Thompson, he actually had a better showing this time, too, with 8 attempts with a 6.1 carry average. Not too bad. Clyde Edwards-Helaire obviously had the same amount of time on the field as Patrick Mahomes for the most part, only 3 attempts for 13 yards. Moving on down, Byron Pringle really giving a case for himself here too. 41 yard completion there was really, really pretty, and I'm glad to see that he's found his hands. Miko Hardman, he's been kind of off and on the preseason. He did have the one receiving touch, or excuse me, one of 2 receiving touchdowns. The other one, of course, being Jerick McKinnon. I hope he really finds his place, because he's going to have some big shoes to fill behind the previous spot of Sammy Watkins, who is now with the Baltimore Ravens. And finally, moving down in the defensive category, Mr. Juan Thornhill with the lone interception for the Kansas City defense. I always love seeing number 22 getting involved on the defensive side and getting the INT, which it really did turn part of the game because the Cardinals were driving down the field, and even though it was Colt McCoy, any time you can see number 22 on the field getting the pick, that's a good day in my book.
Yeah, all together, I mean, you guys, the score doesn't really reflect what it was. I mean, you guys hit 17 really early on, and they kind of scored some points coming back. So
the third and fourth string offensive versus the third and fourth string defense,
yeah.
Absolutely too. So, well, very good. But that was it. Once again, Kansas City wins. They moved to 2-0 in the preseason, 17-10, and moving on to the other side of the country here, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers moving on to 3-0 against the new Jared Goff-led Detroit Lions.
Yeah, just a real quick correction there. 6-time world champion, Pittsburgh Steelers. But it's okay, I'll let it slide this time. But, Big Ben is back. He played a quarter, just like Patrick Mahomes. Better numbers, I would say. But he was 8 for 10, 137 yards, 2 tuds. 2 touchdowns, both of which came to our tight end, the guy we just drafted this year. So, I mean, exciting things going on. All together, pretty dominant performance. We got up early on this one, and kind of like your guys' score there. We ended at 26-20, but there for a little bit it was 20-0. So, it was a pretty dominant performance.
And we got to see a little bit more of Kalen Ballage this time. We were wondering where he was last week, but it looks like this week he's making another case for himself.
Yeah, no, he got 30 yards, 7 carries. I mean, not the best average, 4.3, but still, I mean, way better than what our average was last year. Jalen Samuels, he had 7 carries as well. I mean, he's falling behind there. He always was kind of that passing option for us there. But that's where Najee comes back in. Najee paid the first quarter there. If you look at his stats, 4 carries for 10 yards, you wouldn't be that impressed. But if you scroll on down and see his receptions, he had 2 receptions, 53 yards. I mean, he lit up one. I think it was like a 40-some yard catch, and it was pretty impressive. So, I mean, good day for that. Eric Ebron, I mean, he had 59 yards reception and receiving yards there.
I was gonna bring up Ebron actually because if you get Ebron on one side and is it Freyermuth? I don't know the pronunciation of the other tight end.
I can't say it either.
It's a very interesting, very interesting spelled last name. But yeah, if you get that dual tight end threat for Big Ben, that could be a very dangerous offense moving forward.
Yeah, no, Pat. I'm just gonna go by Pat. I'm not even gonna try to say his last name. We'll say Pat the Muth.
Pat Free.
But, yeah, but he's known for his sure hands, and that's what we need. Ebron there, I mean, he had a huge drop. I mean, he caught a lot of passes for us, but there was this huge drop on a 3rd down play that ultimately stalled out our first drive with Big Ben. That, I mean, you got to catch those at the end of the day. But no, I mean, everything, I was impressed. I mean, then we go to Mason Rudolph. He kind of had a bummer of the game. 10 completions, 18 times throwing, 78 yards, 1 interception. Oh, wait, no, I'm looking at Pat Mahomes. Throwing yards.
I was waiting for something to happen here. It's like, wait, this is way too tame for him right now. So, well played, sir. Well played. Speaking of well played, it seems like the defense once again is stepping up in a big way for Pittsburgh here.
Yeah. No, I mean, our defense, kind of the heart and soul of the team, and that's how the Steelers won it. We're getting Devin Bush back out there. Right now, we're still working on that T.J. Watt extension, so I doubt we're going to see him in the preseason here. But at the end of the day, I mean, I know his level of fitness and how he approaches the game. I'm not too worried about him with those extra reps. It's a long season, being 17 games. So
absolutely. And I guess, speaking of seeing T.J. Watt, we will see T.J. Watt in the top 10 of the top 100 players of 2020 in the NFL. And what we have for you today is our predictions. And what we're doing, as I said earlier, we'll be starting from the bottom. We'll be going number 10 all the way to number 1 with the reasons why. And I guess without further ado, I will go first. Number 10 for me is Josh Allen.
Okay.
Quarterback for Buffalo. His first appearance in the top 10. Obviously, he's very much improved from last year. What being with, I was looking at his stats earlier too. It's funny. 2018, he had 10 touchdowns. 2019, he had 20 touchdowns. 2020, 37 touchdowns. He nearly doubled his 2019 total, and of course he had 10 interceptions. This year, another interesting stat too. He threw for 4,500 yards. 2018, 2,000 yards. 2019, 3,000 yards. 4,500 yards this year. So I really think he will make his debut in the top 10. Obviously, a very conservative at number 10, but Buffalo, my advice to you, pay this man his money because he is the best thing you've had in quite a while.
Oh yeah, no, I mean he's balling. He is going out there and showing his worth. So my top 10, starting out at 10, was Devonte Adams. I mean, he had an amazing year last year. I mean, it always helps when you have a great quarterback in Aaron Rodgers there. But yeah, no, I think he's top 10.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. Definitely the top weapon for Aaron Rodgers, and definitely part of the reason why the Green Bay Packers were able to get back to the NFC Championship game last year, although they came just short of making it back to the Super Bowl. Moving on to my number 9 pick, I have DeAndre Hopkins coming in at number 9. Obviously, his first year on a new team, being with the Arizona Cardinals instead of the Texans, not the Tekkens. 115 receptions last year for 1,407 yards. Only 6 touchdowns. I was very surprised it was that low of a number. Of course, one of those touchdowns being a very impressive last-second Hail Mary from Kyler Murray against the Buffalo Bills. It was a phenomenal catch, triple coverage. He reaches up and he mosses all 3 of those defenders. It was definitely a lot of fun to see. Only thing, and this is part of the reason why I've got him down so low, is because he had 3 fumbles last year. One of which did definitely cost him the game and potentially even a playoff spot towards the end of the season. But yep, I believe DeAndre Hopkins. I think he with the team that's around him in Arizona, I think good things will happen in the years to come.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think you're right on track because I have him at number 9 too.
Very good.
So, no, for everything you said right there, I mean, he's an amazing wide receiver. I wish we had him on our team.
Absolutely, he's definitely it'll definitely be a weapon for anyone that picks him up in fantasy this year. So, moving on to my number 8 pick, I had Mr. Aaron Donald, who actually is regressing from last year. He was number 3. There is another defensive player on this list, and I do think that he, and you know who I'm talking about, he had a much better season than Aaron Donald. Although Aaron Donald had 13.5 sacks, which is still a very impressive number, only 27 tackles, but 4 forced fumbles this year, which I believe is one of his career highs, and 28 quarterback hits. So a very solid year for Aaron Donald. The Rams defense was definitely a big part of their success getting them back to the playoffs. It didn't get them very far on it, obviously, but it did get them a win over the Seattle Seahawks in the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with you on this one here. Going Josh Allen there.
Josh Allen. Josh Allen finally showing up on your list as well.
Yep, so number 8.
Very good. Alrighty, moving on to number 7 on my end here. You ready to have your mind blown?
Okay, what is it?
Number 7, I have number 15, Patrick Mahomes.
Really?
Yes.
Number 7.
Number 7. Unfortunately, I do believe that Aaron Rodgers and of course Tom Brady did have better years in the long of the short of it. Statistically wise, Aaron Rodgers probably the best between the three of them, and Tom Brady, I'm sure. Let's be honest. NFL's going to put Tom Brady number one because of what he did in the playoffs. they're gonna throw the regular season statistics out the window, which is what I based my rankings on. I'm just going strictly regular season. Mahomes, did great. Definitely a top 10 performance for all players involved. But I think, this year he definitely regressed a little bit. Still throwing single-digit interceptions, which is awesome. 38 touchdowns. Still the most passing yards of all, 40 yards with a 66.3 completion rating. But I think he regressed from last year. He was number 4 in the top 100 last year, but I have him as number 7 this year.
Okay, I can't believe I'm disagreeing with you on that part. I always think he's overrated, but okay. I have Travis Kelce at number 7. So, I don't know. I think that's right in line where a tight end should be. I mean, number 7.
Number 7 there. Very good. As I say, Kelce had a very, very strong year, and I'll go back into more detail once he arrives on my list. Number 6 on my list is King Henry himself, Derrick Henry. Let's give the King proper respect and spell his name correctly. Solid year for Derrick Henry. A career year for him last year. 2,027 rushing yards. That's not scrimmage yards. That's rushing yards right there. 2,027 yards. Unbelievable year. 17 touchdowns on 397 touches, which are all a career best for him. Really, he showed up and showed out this year. It's a shame that it had to come to an end with Lamar Jackson's first playoff win, but nonetheless, Derrick Henry, dangerous man. And now that Ryan Tannehill's coming into form, and now they got Julio Jones on their team, Titans are looking very dangerous this year.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, Titans. I'm always strong on them. I like their quarterback situation. I really wish we had Derrick Henry on our team. Besides, now we got Najee Harris, so I'm not that lustful of their running back position. But no, I think you're right on track where that should be.
Sounds like a man that's very lustful for a running back like that. Number 6 for you, my friend.
I have Derrick Henry.
Oh, you were in agreement. Okay, very good. Yep, Derrick.
Great minds think alike again.
Very good. So we've got 2 out of 5 right now that we are in agreement with. This will be very interesting if we agree on this one, but well, actually we don't because you already have this one. I had Davonte Adams at number 5 on this list only because he was the top weapon for Aaron Rodgers. 115 receptions, 1,374 yards, and 18 touchdowns. And from what I saw, that was the most for the wide receivers this year with a 77.2 completion percentage. And he was actually, this is crazy, I don't know if I've seen any receiver do this, but he averaged 98.1 yards per game. That's not something you see every year, and it takes a very specially talented individual to do so. And Davonte Adams, I would definitely believe is that guy.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, Davonte Adams, I had him at 10, but I mean, he was crucial. I mean, you take Davonte Adams out of Green Bay, what do they got? I mean, they got Aaron Rodgers trying to make things happen. So I mean, I can see why you put him there. Coming in number 5 for me, though, it's the one, the only, TJ Watt. I have him at number 5. I just think they're going to disrespect him there. That's where I'm going off of it. But, no, I could definitely see him as number 2 or even if you put him at number 1, just because of how much he mends on the Steelers. I mean, you take TJ Watt out of the Steelers' defense, we're not top 5 material defense. So
he is a one-man wrecking ball for sure on that too. And actually, we were very, very close on that because number 4 on my list was in fact T.J. Watt. I know the NFL, they always like to have at least one defensive player in the top 5, just to give respect to the defense and all that too. But obviously T.J. Watt, he had definitely earned that respect this year as 15 sacks, 43 tackles by himself. That's not even combined tackles. 43 tackles solo, 2 forced fumbles, and 41 quarterback hits. I didn't think it was that high, but yes, 41 quarterback hits from Mr. Watt. And from what I understand, too, the 15 sacks was a career high for him. Do you believe that he could go higher?
Oh, yeah. I think he's going to go higher this year. I think bringing in Melvin Ingram, a seasoned vet, alongside the guys that are behind him, too, will be an improvement. Because let's not forget, Bud Dupree went down last year, and so we got all these backups coming in, and so everyone just went after TJ Watt because they weren't that scared of the blind side. So, I mean, he could have very easily had more sacks last year.
I hear that. Who do you have at number 4?
Number 4, I have Aaron Donald. Only reason I have him higher than TJ Watt is because he was the Defensive Player of the Year last year.
That is very true. Yep. That is true.
So that's where I think he's going to be there. I really think TJ got robbed. I would say it a million times over. But, just the disrespect from the NFL community right there.
And I have heard it a million times from you already, too. So you don't have to tell me anymore. But you may tell the rest of the world however much you want. All right. We are up to the top 3 right now. And who I have coming in at number 3 is, and like I said, I'm sure they'll put him at number 1. I've got Tom Brady coming in at number 3 here because he easily was probably the second best quarterback this year stat-wise, even though 40 touchdowns with 12 interceptions. So 40 touchdowns, that's his best since 2007, since his undefeated year that was upended by the Giants, and 12 interceptions, which is his most since 2009. 65.7 completion rating and 46.33 yards. So just under 100 less than Patrick Mahomes, but even still, it's the history. Freaking numbers don't lie. Tom Brady in his first year took a team that didn't even make the playoffs last year to the Super Bowl, and you can't knock it. He did it, and that's why he is undoubtedly the GOAT.
He is the GOAT. All right, so number 3, I actually got Aaron Rodgers. So I got him number 3. I mean, amazing year last year. Really an MVP year, which he was. And so, I mean, it's just he deserves that due. I mean, he's their whole team. I don't think Jordan Love's the answer.
He may not be for even a couple more years now, and that does bring up an interesting question. Is it Super Bowl or bust for Aaron Rodgers now? Will this be potentially his last year at Green Bay? And win, lose, or draw, we'll have to see how that plays out. And speaking of which, Aaron Rodgers is number 2 on my list.
Gotcha. Yeah.
NFL MVP, obviously, it was, there was so much controversy about them picking up Jordan Love, and it seemed like that lit a huge fire underneath him. 70.7 completion rating, most amongst active QBs, 48 touchdowns, 5 interceptions last year. 48 touchdowns, that's his most in a season. And the 70.7 completion rating, that is very impressive, but that's not even his best. That's his second best of his career. 2007, he had a much better one. Obviously, another passer that broke the 4,000-yard mark too. Yeah, Aaron Rodgers, obviously the number 1 quarterback last year stats-wise, and it's a shame that he couldn't really stick it to the city of Green Bay and take them to the Super Bowl. I'm sure getting them back to the NFC Championship game was satisfying enough, but I bet he wanted more deep down.
Oh, yeah, definitely. For my number 2, I had your guy, Patrick Mahomes. I mean, I think it's, probably where I have my number 1 at, already mentioned. But Patrick Mahomes, he made it to the Super Bowl. He has another outstanding year. I mean, was it as good as his Super Bowl year? No, but but definitely a great year altogether.
With behind that offensive line that was getting worse and worse as the weeks went by, with injuries and everything, and dealing with turf toe for the last quarter of the season, including the playoffs too. I mean, that was very, very impressive. And I can't, as much as I would have loved to see him win the Super Bowl 2 years in a row, I can't knock the fact that he's not. It takes a lot to go back to back to get to the Super Bowl and all that too. And I'm hoping this means great things for his career for many years to come. But without further ado, number one for me is obviously his teammate, the greatest tight end in the league today, and that is Travis Kelce. And I know it's a quarterbacks league and all that too, but just listen to these numbers. For a tight end, keep in mind, this is a tight end we're talking about here. 105 receptions, 1,416 receiving yards. That's his career best. And upon further research, that's the best a tight end has ever had in the history of this league. And he's number 3 and 4 on that list too. George Kittle, obviously, last year he took that title, but Kelce took that as a challenge and took back his rightful place as the king of tight ends. And that was only in 15 games too. You forget about that. He didn't play against the Los Angeles Chargers week 16. This was 15 games, and he had 1,400 receiving yards, 11 touchdowns, and he was second in the NFL in receiving of all, and only behind Stephon Diggs. That is crazy amount of numbers. And like I said, I think Tom Brady, they'll probably get number 1, but if Travis Kelce isn't in the top 3 with those numbers, the NFL is doing tight ends a huge disservice by that.
Okay, I mean, I'll take your argument there, but I mean, he's definitely number 1 at his position. I just don't know, because this is voted by the players.
True.
And everyone loves Tom Brady, so I think Tom Brady's going to be listed as number 1.
And that's to say, I potentially agree with that too. That's just like I said, you just can't knock it. He had a phenomenal season last year, change of scenery to a brand new team, brand new head coach, mostly brand new receivers. I mean, he did have a couple come back to, speaking of it, Antonio Brown and Rob Gronkowski, obviously. But even still, I mean, you can't argue with the numbers. Tom Brady, number 1, and he is for a reason. So those are our predictions for the top 10. I believe they will be announced this coming Sunday night, is when the top 10 will be announced officially on the 100 players list. But before we close it out here too, we are moving on to fantasy football. Obviously, we love our.
I want to get off the soapbox real quick.
Oh, what you got?
The amount of disrespect that Ben Roethlisberger wasn't even in the top 100. I want to bring up some stats here. He's through, remind you, surgically repaired elbow. He threw 3,803 yards, 33 touchdowns, only 10 interceptions. You go back in his career, that's near the top of his career. And who is he doing this with? Only Juju Smith-Schuster as their top guy? I mean, Claypool is a rookie. I mean, and no running game. So, I mean, I think there's some disrespect there, but let's leave it at that.
Well, they're taking into account the fact that not every quarterback throws the ball 50 times each game and all that.
That is true. He did have quite a few. But he did have less than the 2018 season. So he threw the ball less.
That is very true. I had to switch back to the main camera just to get the passion in your face and all that too, of you really defending your case right there. But
I know, it's ridiculous.
Moving back on to the fantasy football rankings here. Of course, Trajan and myself, we are in our own league as far as fantasy football too. Trajan being the commissioner of the league too, and a very unrighteous one, if I have to bring that up. But you didn't hear that from me. So starting off with player rankings, see if you agree or disagree. We have number 1, Patrick Mahomes, number 2, Josh Allen, and number 3, Aaron Rodgers.
You know, I would slightly disagree with that. I just think Lamar Jackson has to be up there. I mean, you get that, depending on how it's set up, you get a ton of running yards with it. So you get that rushing touchdown, as well as the main touchdown. And so I think for that reason, I would put him higher than Josh Allen. I realize Josh Allen throws a lot, but I think for that running game, Lamar Jackson's got it there.
Pointing out the big elephant in the room, I think it's hilarious that they have Deshaun Watson listed at number 5, as uncertain as his future is right now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I am not touching him in fantasy with a foot pole.
I don't think most people are too. Moving on to running back right now. Obviously, the top running back in the league, Derrick Henry. I don't think there's any question there. We've got Alvin Kamara listed at number 2, Dalvin Cook number 3, Jonathan Taylor 4, and Aaron Jones 5. I would put Aaron Jones up a little higher, and I would drop Alvin Kamara a little bit too, because I just don't know if I trust if Kamara will stay healthy this year.
Well, that and you got the quarterback situation there too. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you don't know when Michael Thomas is coming back this year. And so you take out their top threat and the wide receiver, everyone's going to be queuing in on the run. And so that's where Alvin Kamara could get hit.
You know, it was very interesting watching Jameis Winston against Jacksonville the other night. He actually looked very impressive. So we'll have to see if that spells good things for the Saints in the future or not. But moving on to wide receiver now, obviously Davonte Adams. I definitely don't disagree there. They got Tyreek Hill number 2, which I think is a pleasant surprise. Stephon Diggs, Calvin Ridley. That's a surprise up in the top 5. I would have probably switched him with like Mike Evans or even Adam Thielen. Honestly, I would definitely trust them. There's a lot of questionables put next to names on here too. Of course, it's still preseason, but Devonte Adams, Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill, your top 3 as well. You would say?
Well, I would say so, and I can kind of see where they're coming at with a Calvin Ridley. They no longer have the big threat with Julio Jones. And so, a fantasy, I mean, it doesn't matter if you lose. It just matters who's getting forced the ball. And Calvin Ridley is probably their number 1 guy now. So
They kind of have no choice there. Matt Ryan has to rely on him, and with Kyle Pitts now for tight end as well. Speaking of tight end, we're moving on now to it's Hayden Hurst will be the top tight end for the Atlanta Falcons. But speaking of tight ends, we have Travis Kelce, unanimously number 1. No George Kittle, even in the top 5 right here too. Is he injured right now? I'm wondering. He's all the way down at number 18. That is crazy to me right now. Darren Waller, very talented tight end as well. Same with Mark Andrews. Robert Tonyan, I think I'd have to see a little bit more out of him. And T.J. Hawkinson, kind of not a bad first year last year, followed by Mike Gesicki. What do you see in the tight end room here that could be flipped around?
I'm surprised that they got Eric Ebron. I mean, I am biased against my Steelers players, but above George Kittle. That is kind of crazy for me right there. But, yeah, no, I agree with the top 5. The biggest one there, maybe the Lions, TJ Hawkinson. I just don't know enough about him because I do not follow the Lions at all. I'm not even going to be ashamed to say that there. But yeah, no, I agree with the top 4 at least.
That brings up an interesting question. How often did Jared Goff really target his tight ends in Los Angeles? I can't really think of anyone in particular just off the top of my head. So it'll be interesting how Goff incorporates a tight end into his game plan too. Obviously, he had Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp and Brandon Cooks back in the day too. So this change of scenery for him will be very interesting.
No, I mean, it's definitely not as strong of a team that he went to.
All right. And finally, ending on the defense here, too. Speaking of the Rams, the defense looks like we listed number 1 above the Pittsburgh Steelers. Do you agree with this ranking here?
It's bullshit. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, I guess maybe. I don't know. I mean, I think we got a lot of interceptions last year, and that's where you make the points in fantasy. So I would rank us higher. Maybe I'm being biased, but the Rams do have a good defense, so I can't knock them. Indianapolis Colts, they kind of fell off last year. So I don't know on that
if
aspect.
I had to switch some things around, and this is in no particular order, I would have the Rams, the Steelers, and the Washington football team probably as my top 3 defenses right now in the league. Baltimore and Tampa Bay would be a close 4 or 5, I would say. But I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I believe the Steelers' defense is the heart and soul of Pittsburgh. So the fact that they're in the top 3, that is absolutely no surprise. I mean, it could be argued that they are, maybe the best defense and all that. So we will definitely have to see this coming year as we switch back to the other screen here too. Longer episode today. We have reached the 35-minute mark, but we had a lot to talk about today, and a lot of fun stuff coming up here too. Can you feel it now? We are 1 preseason week away from the regular season here too. Mr. Trajan, what do the Steelers have in store this coming weekend?
So we are facing the Panthers, the 0-2 Panthers. We're 3-0. No, I'm excited about it. It should be a good matchup there. I don't know if we're playing our starters in this game. Tomlin hasn't quite come out and confirmed the playing time. I imagine some of the rookies will still get it. But yeah, no. Good meeting there. We'll see what not Aaron Donald. Who is the? Who am I even thinking of?
Aaron Donald's living rent free in your head right now. I swear to God,
he is living rent free. Who am I even thinking? Donald, their quarterback. You know who
Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold. I know.
Darnold.
I know who you're talking about. I just had to let that stir in your head for a minute. That was pretty.
They look a lot alike. I mean, he's just buff.
Yeah, exactly. So.
But yeah, no, that's our matchup, 6:30 Friday night.
Yep. And speaking of Friday night too, the Minnesota Vikings will be coming to town against the Kansas City Chiefs, the first preseason game at Arrowhead Stadium. This will be at 7 o'clock Arrowhead Central Time, and definitely looking forward to that. Same boat as you. Reed hasn't really announced what the starting situation is going to be next week. It could be the same deal where Mahomes comes in maybe for a drive or two and then just be down to Chad Henne or Shane Buechele, and it's gut check time for these rookies and these 3rd and 4th stringers who wants to stay and who's going home, and it's going to be a lot of fun, and hope you all are enjoying this as well too. So thank you again so much for watching. Click the like if you enjoyed the video, click subscribe if you really enjoyed it, tell all your friends. We're getting really close. We got 1 preseason week left, and then the regular season, it's on, baby. Thank you again so much for watching. This is Temple and Trajan, signing off.